As I begin the next chapter of my career, I can't help but reflect on the incredible patients and families who I've had the privilege to work with. The strength and courage they have shown has enriched my life in a very profound way. Tonight, I would like to introduce you to two of those individuals, Emma Neumann and Michael Potter. Both were diagnosed with CF when they were young children at a time when the median life expectancy was only late teens and when attending college might never be an option. Emma and Michael's families took immaculate care of their children while always encouraging them that nothing was impossible. I met Michael Potter when he was just a young boy. Michael spent a couple of months in the NICU before doctors determined his failure to thrive was the result of both cerebral palsy and cystic fibrosis. Michael never let these labels define him. With the support of his family, Michael headed off to Siena College when he was just 17.
Going to college and going away to live on campus was definitely one of the biggest challenges I had to face in my life. It was definitely a big deal for me and my family, especially since I was only 17 when I left home. And I knew it was going to be, wasn't going to be easy, but it was definitely worth all the challenges I had to face and figure out each day, as it was the most fulfilling and rewarding 4 years of my life.
Going to college is a huge transition for most young adults. But for CF patients, there are some real unique challenges. For the first time, many of these young adults find themselves totally responsible for their own care. In between studying and extracurriculars, college students with CF need to fit in time-consuming treatments multiple times a day, along with organizing a long list of medications that need to be taken on a very specific time schedule. For Michael, there were more than the usual things that needed to be organized.
When I first moved into the dorm at Siena, it was definitely challenging. I was able to advertise through the campus center to get students to come and help me with my treatment in the evening. So I was able to figure out that challenge. It was also challenging with the winter. In the winter, with having to go across campus, with my CP, and also figuring out all the best routes to get to the buildings I needed to go to, at the same time spending as little time as I had to outside so that the cold wintry air didn't aggravate my cough and CF too much. I had about 4 different students or staff that came in. We just kept in contact through text and managed our what worked best within our busy study schedules. I had to be a little bit flexible as far as what time my treatment and medications got done. It wasn't like a strictly 8 o'clock every night. I had to kind of fit it into our daily schedule.
I met Emma Neumann when she was very young as well. Her parents were told she had CF on Christmas Eve in 1991. I've quite literally watched her grow up. She was always interested in science and asking questions about her disease. It didn't surprise me when she went off to college to study biomedical research. She was always enthusiastic about learning more about her own care.
Heading off to college in Maine was definitely the hardest thing I've ever done. Being 4 hours away, I was homesick. It didn't even always have to do with CF. I just had never been that far away from home. When I went to college, I registered through disability to get my own room. I was in a suite with other people, so I still had people around, but I had my own bedroom to put everything. That way you could lock the door, nothing would be touched during the day. It was a big experience, but the hardest part was fitting all the medical equipment in the small dorm room.
Patients like Emma can follow their treatment plan exactly, but their health can decline in spite of their best efforts. When a person with cystic fibrosis progresses to a critical point and their lung function has had a significant decline, it is important to discuss the option of lung transplant. In the past, it was considered a last resort and doctors were hesitant to bring it up. But today, it's another treatment option to be considered, one that can change a person's life. The age for needing a transplant varies from patient to patient. For Emma, as she headed into her senior year of college, it was time for her to consider transplant. She completed her last year of college at home, too ill to stay in Maine.
Initially, I was turned away because I was considered too healthy. My numbers of lung function and everything weren't low enough to be qualified, but it was shortly after that they took it serious and had me coming back every couple weeks to be reevaluated. Being home before transplant, I was just hanging out on the couch most of the day on oxygen 24/7. I would do like 3 treatments a day. I was on tube feeds around the clock because I couldn't gain any weight. I was just trying to occupy myself with books and video games. And I would go like let's say once a month to the transplant clinic. They would do all the tests, get the numbers, and then they would meet to see. And I got the call one day that said, they told me, "You're listed. So now keep your phone on you 24/7, always charged, because any time of day you could get the phone call." I got it at 1 a.m. And you answer the phone and he says, "It's Dr. B," which is weird. Usually this transplant surgeon doesn't usually call you, but he called me because there was a potential problem with the lung, so I had an option of whether or not I wanted to take them. And he stopped and said, "Are you awake now? Can I talk to you?" He gave me a second to wake up. And then he talked to my mom, and I decided to go with it because they checked the lungs before they put them in you, so if there had been a problem, they would have said no. And they were a perfect fit and worked out. I went into surgery at 7:30 that night, so you're just sitting around all day having tests done and just waiting. And we almost didn't think it was gonna happen because they kept saying, "We don't know, we don't know." They tell you 2 minutes before they really wheel you into surgery. They said the lungs are good, and they take you.
Because I've always loved sports and I always wanted to be able to play sports, but I knew that was never really an option. One day, in my freshman year, I was in the library studying, and the library overlooks the baseball field. So I caught myself in between study breaks watching the game. The next game I ended up going down to the field and checking out the game. A couple of the guys on the team thought it was really cool that I took an interest in the team, so they invited me up to their townhouse to hang out and social gathering. They would always ask, like, "You gonna make it to the next game? Like, we won, you're our good luck charm." And then they kind of created a spot for me to watch behind the backstop of home plate where I could kind of get to talk to some of my friends before they came up to bat. I would just tell them, like, wait for your pitch, be patient, like persistence pays off. Like, a lot of the things that I found worked for me, and I guess worked for them. So I ended up just meeting new friends and being part of the team. I helped them realize how fortunate they were to be playing the game that they love in college, and that sometimes they took for granted, but that, like, talking to me and seeing me, like, help them, like, put their struggles and their perspective. So it was pretty cool for me, and it was the first time I really felt like part of a community or a team, like outside of my immediate family.
Before transplant, I don't think there was one hard day in particular. They all were pretty hard, just not being able to breathe, and when you get up and walk, you're constantly out of breath and everything. After transplant, the hardest day was probably not the initial day, but the next morning, because they have you up out of the bed, walking. I could only get to the doors, but they get those lungs moving. After transplant, I was in the hospital for a month. I spent 1 week in ICU and 3 weeks up on the transplant floor, because you had to reach certain milestones with steps and walking distances before they would release you. And you had to have all the chest tubes out. My mom would stay a week, then my dad would stay a week. My aunt stayed a couple weeks. My best friend came and stayed a couple days.
Having a successful outcome after transplant definitely takes hard work and a dedicated support system. Fortunately, Emma had both. Cerebral palsy took away Michael's chance to play baseball in college, but it did not take away the chance to be a meaningful part of a baseball team. Michael was not a Fairweather Saints fan, but rather was there for every game, even willing to sit in the pouring rain for a 6-hour doubleheader. His teammates honored their superfan by asking him to participate in the 2009 Senior Day festivities.
Senior Day was pretty cool. I got to go out on the field with the 5 seniors and their families, because I attended all the games in my wheelchair, and I was able to walk out on the field in my walker and stand there with the 5 guys along with the coach and their families.
I truly admire Emma and Michael for the way they live their lives, for the grace and dignity with which they face adversity, for their perspective on life, and their relentless courage to fight their disease.
When I was really sick, you lose a lot of hope, and I always wondered, would I get a transplant? Could I make it through? My parents were the ones that were always there to pick me up. Since I've had the transplant, I am free to do whatever I want. There's no limits. I can breathe. Usually it's my muscles screaming, not my lungs now, when I try to do stuff.
I think it definitely takes courage and a lot of support to fight CF, because it's an ongoing uphill battle that takes courage and strength every day. I think you just have to somehow find the strength to keep on going and eventually get through. Living with CF definitely does change my perspective on life. Try to enjoy every day and cherish the friendships and relationships that you have, because you don't know how long you have, so you have to make the most of it and try to stay positive.
The best part of my job has been to meet wonderful patients like Emma and Michael. It has been an honor to help the CF patients treated in Albany to navigate the hurdles of their disease. When the foundation asked me to identify a couple of people with CF who I felt were living and thriving with the disease, I really struggled with the idea of just a couple. There were so many I have come to respect and who have taught me much about resilience and courage. Look around, because a number of them are sitting in this room. People with CF here in Albany, New York have a unique support system, a system like no other CF center in the country. The Donna Crandall Foundation has made my job easier. It has provided so much to so many. In the last 18 years, I have never had to say no to a person in need because of your continued generous support. We all look forward to the day that CF stands for Cure Found. But until that day comes, with your help, we can truly make a meaningful difference in the lives of many courageous people.